Good morning, everybody. This is Stephen Pugh of the Home Bible College. It is October the 4th today. We're looking at Isaiah chapter 21, 22 and 23. Now, chapter 21 has three sections. Verse 1 to 10 is the prophet's burden regarding the desert of the sea. This is Babylon. That's the Babylon which we all know, which is in Iraq. And then verse 11 to 12 is the burden for Duma, which is very nearby. It's on the other side of the desert, but basically it's still referring to an area which we call Iraq today, but which is on the borders, is in the desert, and it's on the borders between Iraq and Saudi Arabia. Verse 13 to 17 is the burden of Arabia. So we can see that this is not referring to the Babylon which people talk about today, which they say erroneously, I think, is the Roman Church. The Roman Church is never Babylon. Babylon is Babylon. The Bible is very clear and very specific about these words. It never uses the word Babylon to mean anything other than Babylon. He sees the feasting of Babylon. Let's go back a bit. In the first passage, Isaiah sees the Medes and the Persians who were sent by God besieging Babylon, and he sees the feasting of Babylon and of the destruction of the city while they feasted. The story is told in the book of Daniel. It's the famous incident of the writing on the wall. The invasion will be like a tornado passing through the land. Babylon falls to the invaders, and all the abominable idols are destroyed. Then in verse 11 he speaks about Duma, which is Edom. This is an abbreviation for Idumea. And they ask about their end, and Isaiah says, "Ask the Lord again another time." In verse 13 to 17, Isaiah brings to us his burden for Arabia. He describes the diminishing of the nation within a year. In chapter 22, Isaiah outlines his burden for the Valley of Vision. This is the Persian invasion. Then he describes the godless joy of those besieged. Verse 1 to 3, Isaiah says, "Don't look at me weeping, because this is a day of great trouble." Verse 4 and 5, Elam, the Persians, will invade the land with a massive army. They come to Jerusalem. They count the houses and do various military building projects to destroy the city. The Lord calls for a day of mourning. Verse 12, weeping and baldness and sackcloth. And yet the inhabitants feast, and they say, "Let's eat today, because tomorrow we'll be dead." The Lord calls on them to fast, but they feasted. Verse 15 to 25, Isaiah brings a message to Israel. He foretells their captivity and says that their leader will wear the king's robes. The key of David will be given to him. He will open so that none can shut, and shut so that none can open. The Lord will secure him there, immovable. Now, chapter 23 is the burden of Tyre. This passage is divided into two, describing the former and the latter times. Verse 1 to 14 is the former times. Tyre is going to face destruction on an immense scale. Tyre was going to become the prophet of the nations. Mart is the prophet of commerce. The ships of Tarshish, which is Spain, will be astounded at her destruction. Then Isaiah foretells a time when for 70 years Tyre will lay waste. This was the whole time of Nebuchadnezzar's reign. And then the Lord will bring destruction on the city for her spiritual adulteries with the nations. I have to say that some of these passages in Isaiah are quite difficult for us to understand. I mean, obviously Isaiah knew what he was talking about, but much of the history that's described, or the prophecy that's described, some of it is very difficult to place. My password is found in verse 14. Isaiah says this, he says, "And it was revealed in my ears by the Lord of hosts." Surely this iniquity shall not be purged from you till you die, saith the Lord of hosts. And you might say, why is that your password, Stephen? Well, it's my password because what we read here is exactly how Isaiah gets his visions and how Isaiah gets the word of the Lord. He says, it was revealed in my ears by the Lord of hosts. You see, Isaiah was a man that God spoke to in his ear, and when he spoke what God had said, it was the word of God. This isn't Isaiah's ideas. This is what God has to say. The thing that's amazing to me, always is amazing to me, is not only that there is a God, but that this God has got something to say. And what this God has said has been revealed to his prophets, and they have written what he says in a book. Probably the greatest technological innovation of all time is the book. And the book is the thing upon which the word of God is written. And how did the prophets get the word of God? It says, it came into their ears by the Lord of hosts. Wow, what an amazing thing we have. And we all can have a copy of this book, and we all can read it, and there's much of it we don't understand, but the Lord enables us to read much of it, and most of it by his Spirit we can understand. Well, God bless you. It's great to speak to you. Look forward to speaking to you again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.